Rick, you worked with President Mandela on his autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom. And in the book, you write, and he writes, that when Mandela was a child in this community of Kunu, that Africans weren't afforded the privilege of having the title of land and owning that land. They had to pay rent to the government annually. Talk about what it meant to go back and his decision to be buried in Kunu and now to return as the first black president and with a state funeral and all the pomp and circumstance there in Kunu.
It is very significant and lovely. I mean, he loved those hills around where he was born. He never talked about religion much or Western religion at all. And he talked about the ancestors. He talked about his people. He was, when his father died when he was 8 or 9 years old, and his father had been a counselor to the king of the Tembu, he was brought to what was known as the Great Place, Mkwekazeni, and he became became another son, as it were, of the king, where he was imbued with all of the traditions of the Tembu tribe and the larger Xhosa clan. And he loved those things. He loved their style of leadership. He loved listening to the stories of the Xhosa battles against the British, against the Zulu. And he was imbued with a feeling of African aristocracy, African history, African greatness. And in a way, the fact that he was so far from where white settlements were, so far from cities, preserved that sense of confidence that he had by living in a royal village and being educated by a king and having these kingly and royal responsibilities that were devolved upon him. And what happened when he eventually ran away, because the king tried to arrange a marriage for him and the king's real son, Justice, he ran away to Johannesburg. That was where he first experienced prejudice and racial injustice, and that is what turned him into a revolutionary. But the inheritance that he got as a young man gave him confidence in himself, gave him confidence in the long chain of African leadership that had preceded him. And when he first joined the ANC, this was something that people noticed, that Walter Sisulu, who became his mentor in the ANC, noticed. They noticed that this young man, with his aristocratic bearing, had great confidence in himself, great belief in the African destiny. That was less true of many young men who were raised in the townships and raised in the cities. And yet when he became a leader of the ANC, and certainly when he was in prison and when he became state president, one of the other things that he did that was contra the accepted wisdom of the ANC was he embraced that traditional leadership that he came from. Many in the ANC felt that the white government and the apartheid powers had tried to play black tribes against each other, and people in the ANC would say, we are not Xhosas, we are not Tembu, we are not Pondos, we are not Zulus, we are blacks. And Mandela would say, no, the traditional tribal culture is something that's important to the people of South Africa, and we cannot reject it. We must reach out to those people. And it's come full circle, really, when you think, here he is buried in Kunu, you know, adjacent to the village where he was born, in this solemn ceremony that blends East and West, that he's finally come back to his resting place. He's come full circle, and it's a beautiful circle that we see. And to echo Christian and Cyril, it is, I believe, sets the stage for this extraordinary transformation in South Africa that he has ushered in.